Hey, I'm Paul Slavic. I'm the current president of the Alpharetta Rotary Club, and we're here today. We just want to talk a little bit about what Rotary is, who Rotary is, the background of our club, and the history of the Alpharetta Club, and what we're getting involved in today, and how that affects the community and the people involved. So I've got John Hypes here, past president of the Alpharetta Rotary Club, with us, and de facto historian as well of our club. So he's here to bestow some knowledge upon us and talk about the good old days and the current days. So welcome, John.
Well, thanks. This is proof if you stick around long enough, you can become a historian. So I think when I joined the club in 96, 97, I was 37 years old, which would be old by today's standards, almost, by some of our newer members. And I guess I've seen a few things go by over the course of the years in the club. So anyway, grateful to be here.
What was the age spread when you joined? You said you were 37. Was that on the younger side of the club, or was that?
At 37, I definitely felt like I was one of the younger people in the club when I joined. And everything's relative. So when you're 37 and you look at a table full of guys that are 60, you're like, oh, that's where the old guys are. Now I'm, in my mid-60s sitting at the table, and I'm like, I don't feel that old, but everybody else must think this is the old guys' table. But we definitely have a much, much younger club than we did in the mid-90s. No, there's no question. So,
I feel like I had a similar experience when I joined, and I came. I came because my CPA was Robin McIntyre. At the time, I had just started my State Farm business, and I said, hey, I'm looking for ways to get involved in the community. Do you know of any opportunities? And she said, oh, yeah, I'm about to be the president of the Rotary Club. And I said, oh, okay. And she said, why don't you come check it out? So I went, and I got asked 5 different times, I think, hey, did you go to high school with my son or daughter?
Yeah.
And I had.
Yeah.
So I ended up hanging out in the back for a little while with Lawrence Mulkey, one of our charter members. And he was a State Farm agent back in the day as well, so we bonded over that. And I stuck around long enough to realize that was the leaders of the community that were in there. And, successful people who were ready to give back. And I was like, this is where I need to be.
So, got to get this on the table. He's sick of hearing this, Paul is. But Paul graduated high school with my daughter, point of reference in terms of, ages in the club. And to this day, even this very day, my daughter thinks it's completely strange that I'm friends and hang out with one of her high school friends. And so I was talking to Kaylin earlier, and I said, yeah, I'm going to go be meeting with Paul here after a bit. And for those who don't know, it's not Paul to everybody he graduated with. It is PJ. And she does not recognize Paul. She recognizes PJ. So
not many recognize me nowadays anyway, so that's fine.
But nobody in the club knows my college nickname, and we'll leave it right there, so that's fine.
So let's go back for a minute. Tell us about, why did you join the club in the first place?
I would say I joined the club. I joined the club because I was invited. So my story coming into Alpharetta Rotary was, I'll take it back to the very beginning. I was attending Bridgeway Baptist Church over off of Kimball Bridge or whatever it was, and there was a fellow financial advisor in the church, and he approached me in January of 1996, and he said, we're forming a business network club, BNI, and they don't have a lawyer. You should come and check it out. And it was very fortuitous. I'd never thought about marketing my law firm practice. And so I showed up at the meeting and learned how to market my practice with an elevator speech. But also in that group was a young guy that I met for the first time named Dan Merkel, was in that BNI group that first met in January of 96. And shortly afterwards, Heather Demas and a host of other people that I got to know. But one of the people in that club was Paul Ray. And after I had been in BNI for about 8 months, it was getting toward the fall of 1996, Paul, who had been in the Rotary Club for a number of years, invited me to come to Alpharetta Rotary. And he was the one who sponsored me into the club. Now, by way of history and how the club has changed, back in 96, 97, and shortly afterwards, it was commonplace to be a prospective member and visit for 6 to 9 months before they would induct you. And since nobody knew any different, you didn't feel like you were being held out or whatever. But I started coming in October of 96. We were meeting at Country Club of the South, really close to where I lived, off Barnwell Road, pretty close to where I worked at the time over in Peachtree Corner, so it was super convenient. Tremendous breakfast, still the best breakfast I think we've ever had was at Country Club of the South, Eggs Benedict. I mean, it was top shelf. And I went from October till April of 97 when I was sworn in. And there's the other guy who I remember well. He was shortly after me, Ron Cohen. And Ron started showing up late 96, early 97, and it took him 9 months to get sworn in. I think Ron holds the record, so good for us that we get people sworn in a lot more quickly. And so, I was invited, going back to the question, why did I join Rotary? I was invited by a fellow member, and then secondly, it was sort of, ingrained in me as a kid. In the mid-1960s, my dad was in the Kiwanis Club in Litchfield, Illinois, and he was president of the Kiwanis Club. I think it was 1966, 67. Had the horn rim glasses, the Vitalis hair, the whole thing, And I remember going to Kiwanis Club meetings with my dad, and it left an impression on me. It really did. And I actually spoke about that the year I became president in 08 about bring your kids, because it will plant seeds in them that you won't see germinate until much later in their lives. And so I think those two things, sort of had a yearning for it, and I was invited was the reasons I joined.
So who invited you?
Paul Ray.
Paul, okay. So when Paul invited you, what did you think the club was? When he said, hey, you should come to my Rotary Club, what did you think it was? Or did you already know?
I think I already knew. I mean, I knew it was a civic club. Again, growing up, in the mid-'60s, I knew of Kiwanis and Rotary, and I always had a perception that Rotary was a little bit elevated over Kiwanis or Lions Club, and that's no disrespect to either one of those clubs, but in terms of branding and my perception of Rotary, it was a more established group of people in the community, generally speaking. Each city may have its own flavor of their own civic club, but I always considered it a club that I would want to be a part of, as opposed to one of those clubs that would have me and then I don't want to be a part of them. I mean, it was something I wanted to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. So, thinking about what you thought it was then, how would you describe our club now? If someone says which I mean many people do, which is I think part of the reason why we're here, is what is the Alpharetta Rotary Club? Who is the Alpharetta Rotary Club? So in your words, tell me, what do you think our club is?
Well, I mean, by the book, we're a civic club, and, we should be doing and thinking service first and business second. I'm a little bit of a old school person. I'm not real big on joining Rotary to further your business, but rather to join Rotary to do service, create relationships, and from that, business develops. But I realize there's people who join strictly for advancing their business. In terms of the question, who or what is our club, I've got another answer for you. So the year I was president, I approached Rotary like I approached my career, and I studied it, and I analyzed it, and I researched it, and did a lot of research. And I was looking for the least common denominator. If you took everything from historically to current to aspirational in terms of Rotary Magazine, what RI thinks we ought to be, I wanted to figure out where can I get it where it doesn't break down any further. And it became, the year I was president, the tagline for our club: have fun, do good, make a difference. And to me, that is what our club is and should aspire to be. If all you're doing is making a difference, but you're not doing good and having fun, you're missing part of it. And if you're missing any one of those elements, the club is missing out on something. And I think we excel in all those areas. So having fun, doing good in the community, and making a difference where you're doing good actually leaves something behind, a legacy. I mean, you've talked about some of the things that you want to do for Alpharetta. When I was president, we did the fire safety house for teaching kids fire safety, and that was, you can, as a club president, you can do a lot of small projects, or you can do big, pricey projects and fewer small projects. And I went for something that was a little bigger and pricier, especially by our standards back in those days.
What year was that?
That was in 2008, 2009.
Okay.
So we made a major contribution to the Alpharetta Fire Department for the fire safety house. It had our logo up on there, and I can look back on that and say, our club left that behind for kids to learn fire safety.
Yeah. So
that's part of having fun, doing good, making a difference, and of course, in answer to your question, our club is completely unique and different than most every other club. And people will tell you that anytime they come and visit and have breakfast with us from another club. I mean, we're younger, we dress more casually, we're certainly more irreverent. That's reflected in our speakers and just the characters that we have in the club. And so I was on a podcast the other day for Rotary and talking about membership. For me,
this guy's a pro.
But for me, I think our club, we're serious about what we do and what we do in the community, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. The fact that you're our president is living proof of that.
True.
No, I mean, you're very serious about the work we do, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. And I think that comes across when people visit our club. And for people who that attracts people to join our club, that's great. For people who are looking for a button-down, dour, more, formal club, they're not going to stay very long because we don't take ourselves that seriously. But we're serious about what we do.
Absolutely, it's not about what you look like; it's about what you're doing and what you're doing in the community. When I walked into, we had a little event the other night for our Rotary Foundation. And when I walked in, there was a guy from St. Vincent de Paul wearing a nice blazer, hair slicked, and I think I had a vest on, and I kind of looked like a bum. And one of our fellow members introduced me. Yeah, this is Paul. He's the president of our club. And I said, yeah, hey, nice to meet you. Sorry, I don't look like it, but yeah. So it is all about that,
So let me tell you a story on that. My dearest friend in life, who's since left us, Bill Weeks, my brother from another mother. He when he was president in 2012, 2013, he had a goal of how much money he wanted to raise for the foundation. That was the year that we had this quantum leap. And Bill was 10 years older than me, so let's do the math on this. That's 15 years ago. So he's probably in his late 60s, I'm going to say. No, excuse me, early 60s. He decided he wasn't going to cut his hair until he reached the monetary goal he wanted to reach for foundation giving. And he started out the year with the normal hair, and by the time he got to his goal in about March or April, I mean, his hair was really long. He looked like a homeless man. This is a club who's serious about what we do, but does not take themselves too seriously. And then you weren't in the club yet in 2012, 2013. So we had a club meeting where one of our club members' wives, Dina Driscoll, does hair. She's a hairdresser. In the meeting, while it's going on, she has Bill sitting up front in the meeting and is cutting his hair at the meeting. I mean, you can't, this is great stuff. You're never going to find the president of the Atlanta Club growing his hair out for like 9 months and then cutting it in the middle of a meeting.
I love it.
That's the kind of stuff that makes me love my club.
I love it. I contrary to popular belief, I normally don't have long hair, and I sort of started growing it out with that same sort of idea that maybe I would utilize it throughout my year. And maybe a bidding war to raise some money or something, but we'll see what happens. It's still going right now.
I think people should come into Rotary with a servant's heart, something that's, they want to serve or they want to serve one of their passions. I'm real big on that. Don't just come in and join in Vision Warriors. Please do, but bring your own passion so I can go work on your passion. That is so important to me for new members who have something that can add to the mix, not dilute the existing mix. And
all the things that we work on right now are comprised of projects that have been brought to the club by members,
right?
Basically.
So I'm a very service-first person and business second. But the year I was club president was the year of the Great Recession. So when leading up to July 1st of 2008, there were warning signs, but nobody knew what lay ahead. Nobody, at least not on Main Street. Let's just put it that way. And so we put together a budget, and Bill Weeks was my treasurer. He's CPA, and so Bill was one of my sounding boards, and we put together a budget for the club. And then, and we had at least 5 banks represented in the club. And in 2008, 2009, Alpharetta was ground zero for bank failures in 2009, starting with Integrity Bank and just a Net Bank. There were so many banks in Alpharetta that per capita that went under versus nationwide. It was unusual. So we had these folks in the club that represented banks. And I was always pushing service, but I remember it was February or March of 2009, and by this time, everything had collapsed. 30,000 here, 40,000 layoffs here. Every day you read the newspapers. People forget how just brutal that recession was and how bad it was at the start. And I remember looking around the room and thinking, there's a lot of people in here who didn't do anything extravagant. They were playing by the rules of business, the rules of society, and despite their best efforts, they've lost their jobs. They've lost their companies. In our club, I mean, people who were close friends of mine, and it's one thing if you are a speculator, not that that's good, but these are people playing by conservative rules, lost their jobs. And so I remember standing up front at the start of a meeting and putting on my serious voice, and I said, we are a service club, but these are tough times, and if you're going to do business with somebody, find somebody in this club and do business with them, and make it your goal to do business with other Rotarians. There's people in here who are hurt. We're all family, and you never know how that's going to pick up somebody. And because I never ever emphasized the business side of Rotary, it was interesting how many people came up to me after that meeting and thanked me. Mm-hmm. So the club is what it is, but at the same time, because of the family part of it, we can pick each other up and help each other out in times of need. So, and I'm not sure where I started with going down that story, but
I'd agree.
It was an important moment for our club. I mean, it was
truly is a family.
Yeah, I mean, there were some tough times happening right there. So.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you were there to form that, because what it became was kind of what I walked into. And I'll tell you a little bit about, how I felt when I walked in. So I pick up where I left off. I was standing there. 5 different people asked me if I went to school with their children, and I had. And I was looking around the room. I think I was 27 at the time in 2017, and I was like, I don't know. I have no idea what this. I don't really understand what this is. I always thought churches were the only ones that really did volunteer work in the community. I mean, I knew there were some civic organizations, but I had never heard of Rotary. So I kind of sat in the back for a few weeks of coming to the meetings and just listened. And I saw all these projects that were going on.
So who was president when you started visiting?
Scott Dahl was the current president when I started visiting.
Gotcha.
Robin was incoming and took over shortly, I think, after I joined.
So 2017, 17, 18?
Yeah, right at the end of 2017 is when I joined the club. September, I think it was. So, I kind of sat in the back. I took my time. I watched for a while. I like to really take in what's going on. I saw these different projects happening. And the first one I got involved with was a construction project where we were building a chicken coop for Lionheart, for the students of Lionheart to, house the chickens, feed them, whatnot. And I remember, the camaraderie I felt building this chicken coop with the other Rotarians, and then seeing it eventually on Lionheart's farm grounds. It made me feel really good that we built that as a team there. So, but what I saw was when I got to Rotary, I kept asking myself, what is this? And what I think I saw now is it was the leaders of the community coming together to be the conduit of need to the community, or the community to the need, right? So where there's a gap, they fill it. Successful people willing to give back with servants' hearts, really looking for what does our community need and how's it going to get better. And it was people that were willing to get their hands dirty and do it. We are doers. Mm-hmm. I think I don't know if that's an official Rotary saying, but we are doers.
Is now.
There is a saying, if you want something done, ask a busy person. And I feel like it's very true of our club, because everyone's either a business owner or, a public official or, very involved in their job, whether that be a, successful lawyer or, real estate or whatever it may be. If you need something done, ask any one of those people. They jump right in and are busy every day of the week, but they do it because they love their community. So that was kind of what I figured out after sitting in the back for a little while, is that's who these people are. And I said immediately, I was like, I need to be in here. So I didn't leave.
So what really does add a great perspective to Rotary is when you've had the opportunity to travel and visit other clubs, and especially when you travel overseas and visit other clubs. So, our club, we get a chance to see in a, not somewhat, but I would say very affluent community, how we can impact an affluent community. One way, which I will always be proud of this, is we as a city did not have a Memorial Day ceremony. Everybody would go to Roswell for the biggest one that's in the state of Georgia, and they do it very, very well. And that's where I used to go with Steve Corder and Joel Canada. We'd go down to Roswell, and those Rotarians down there did an excellent job doing that. But as soon as City Hall got built, I'm like, we should have a Memorial Day ceremony for our residents, and our Rotary Club made that happen. In terms of making a difference in our own community, myself and a few others, we've got a saying, and I think we should preach this to all of our members: is if you have an idea, you can execute that idea just by saying, in today's terms, I got 170 people who can help me. Back in that day when I was trying to do Memorial Day, and that was in 2015, I approached the city and I said, I got 100 people who can help me. And then you just go make it happen. Mm-hmm. I think Steve Beecham has been a great example of, I've got an idea, I've got 150 people, 170 people who can make that happen. And when you view it in that sense, you can actually make a difference even in an affluent community and find needs and fill those needs. When you travel internationally, it's just amazing because, the U.S. is well known for having a substantial, middle class. It's not haves and have-nots, but we've got a middle class. You go to, my first international trip was in 1998, which sealed the deal for me in Rotary, by the way, down to Panama. But there's the wealthy and there's the incredibly poor, and there's nothing in between. You go down there and you partner with a club in Panama, and you watch the wealthy people of society give of themselves in a major way to help their fellow countrymen in substantial ways. Food, medicine, clothing. It really opens your eyes to the power of Rotary. So, which leads into, this is way too much information, but what sets Rotary apart is, if you add the foundations up of Kiwanis and Lions Club and all the others, they do not equal the amount of financial wherewithal of the Rotary International Foundation, which is over $1 billion. So just spending the interest off that whatever billion dollars in the foundation enables us to go around the world and make significant changes. And when you talk about going around the world making changes, you're talking about a club in Alpharetta doing something with a club in Tegucigalpa or Medellin, Colombia, or Panama City, Panama, and partnering with them. And you're talking about an insurance agent or a local lawyer working with a dentist or an eye doctor down there to make a change. And the way that all works is because there is the money that enables this whole thing to be knitted together around the world. The Rotary Foundation, all that money ties these clubs together where they're all distinct and yet they're all tied together. The other civic clubs can't do that. Mm-hmm. They're not designed to do that. They can't do it. They don't have the wherewithal. So, big Rotary International, it's very special.
Let's touch on that real quick, not to cut you off.
No.
The international piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking a lot about Alpharetta and Rotary in Alpharetta, and you started, talking international. Let's give a little background. So Rotary is an international organization. There's about 1.4 million people in the world that are Rotarians, and there is a Rotary International Foundation that all of the clubs sort of, donate up to, and that foundation enables clubs all over the world. There's grants, there's matching money, but enables the clubs to get together and, do great stuff all over the world. And John, I know you were just saying you've traveled all over the world or to multiple places for projects with Rotary. Let's talk a little bit more about the international piece, I guess, because that is a big piece of who Rotary is, right?
Yeah. So for me, and this will tie together a couple of different aspects of Rotary. So I was in the Alpharetta Rotary Club, meeting at Country Club of the South. It's 1998, so I've been in the club right about 1 year. And I'm that 1 year guy who doesn't know which table to sit at, and they got their group here and their group there, and I've got my few friends, and it's kind of finding my way. And after one meeting in early spring of 98, pardon me, I'm standing there with a group of people, and I overhear one of the guys say, well, so-and-so just dropped out of our trip to Panama, and we got an opening. We should find somebody to fill it. And I did something very uncharacteristic for me. I said, without checking at home or anybody's schedule at home, I said, I'd love to go. And they're like, yeah, I'm making this part up now, but they're looking at me like, well, who are you? You're the new guy. Who are you? But wasn't quite that bad. But so I go on this trip. There's 8 of us. And for me, that is unquestionably what sealed the deal for both being in Rotary and to cross over from being a Rotary Club member to a Rotarian. And those are two very different things. So on that trip, amongst others, was Joel Canada and Bill Weeks. And you go on a third world international trip, it's like, in some regard, in terms of accommodations and whatnot, it's kind of like being in a foxhole. And you will bond with the people you're with. And, it wasn't a coincidence that those two guys became two of my closest friends, Bill, my closest friend, as a result of going on that trip. And what some people experience, we call it, have your Rotary moment, where all of a sudden the light bulb goes off. It's your epiphany. It's like, oh, I get it. I understand. I had book knowledge before, but now I get it. I had my Rotary moment on that trip, and it was all about Joel Canada. So we're in this this village, and it's in the jungle of Panama, and there's Joel, and Joel really didn't do a lot of work. Joel was an ambassador, interacting and almost always interacting with kids, and he's doing the sliding, disappearing thumb thing and all this stuff, and he's on his knees, eye to eye, with children that didn't speak English, and Joel didn't speak Spanish, and they were having a conversation with their eyes. just looking at each other and laughing, and Joel with that laugh. And I promise you, I've never forgotten it. I'm getting a little, misty here. I'm like, I get it. Here's all these wealthy Panamanians taking time out of their day to go out in the jungle, and here's a bunch of people from Alpharetta taking a week off their schedule, and we're out here providing medicine on a medical trip and supplies, but here's this guy that owns a tire store on his knees communicating with a bunch of kids, and for me that trip and that moment on that trip, it's like, this is Rotary. And I've been present where other people have had their Rotary moment, including Kirk and Dina. Wow. On a different trip. So the international trips are special. You don't have to go abroad to have a Rotary moment. You don't have to go abroad to see Rotary in action. But when you do, it's very distilled and very condensed. Like this is what Rotary is and can do. Then you try to bring that back and apply it in your community. So as we've been doing.
Absolutely. I mean, on that subject, I'll tell you a little bit about my Rotary moment, which is very, very similar to that. I think I'd been in the club for about 3 or 4 years at this point, and Olga Narvaez, she's Colombian, very involved and a very successful member of our club. She organized a trip to Colombia, and we went to Bogota and Medellin, and we had numerous things that we'd sponsored in those cities. We did a heart monitor a mobile heart monitor so they could take it out to the remote areas and check the children for heart defects. We had a laparoscopic surgery machine that we helped donate to provide into one of the hospitals in Bogota. And we also provided a computer lab for an orphanage for special needs children. And I'll tell you, when we visited that orphanage, that hit me pretty hard because it was, I mean, they put together a little program for us. All the kids did some dancing, and like the pure excitement to see on these kids' face when we walked in, it's really something special. It touches your heart. It's something that you've never seen, especially the level of poverty in some of these areas that I had never seen before or experienced. When you get there and you see it, and then you feel the joy from the kids and the pure, just the purity of it all. Them hugging us afterwards, they all wanted to take a picture with us. Yep. I mean, I was like a little celebrity with them, and it hit me right there. I was like, wow, this is it.
And that's when you my terminology, but that's when you cross over from being a club member. You show up, you have breakfast, you socialize before a meeting, to becoming a Rotarian, and you have your aha moment. And even when I was president in 2008, I tried in those very words to draw that distinction. I'm like, you all can show up and have breakfast and coffee, but that makes you a club member. You got to go out and get your hands dirty to be a Rotarian. That happens outside these four walls. Very similar to church too. I mean, you're gonna learn the faith. You're gonna preach the faith inside, but be the hands and feet of God. Go out and do the work. So
on that note, so. Part of my vision for my year as president, I really wanted to bring back the Rotary hands-on experience. I wanted to bring back those opportunities for volunteer work. And so I tried to create as many possibilities or as many opportunities as possible in our community. And so right along with that, I think it doesn't really hit you till you get out there sometimes because, I think before I got involved with this kind of stuff, I always thought, there are those people who, why are they always going on mission trips to these little countries? Wouldn't it have been better off just to send them the money and not waste $1,000 on an airplane trip? But you start to realize it's a lot more than that, right? Getting out there and seeing it firsthand, having these moments inspires you to come back and inspire others, which has to happen. So with that, I'd like to circle back to Alpharetta, talk about some of the stuff that we're doing here. So we talked about some of the initiatives, that we've done overseas. I'd like to highlight a few things that we've done here. You talked briefly about the Memorial Day tribute, which is awesome. Still going on today. Been going for, I think, 8 years now?
In my mind, it will go on for the next 200 years. That will be Alpharetta's, whatever Alpharetta is, that will be our Memorial Day service.
Well, I mean, I love if you think about it, name a few maybe things that you like to get involved with that are maybe recurring items or one-off events that our club does that really mean a lot to you around here.
Well, first of all, sincere kudos for the sign-up genius on Monday. It has made it so much easier and more effective for me to have that up and have my calendar there as opposed to the clipboard and my iPhone calendar. So,
for reference, we do a Monday motivation email that has about 10 sign-up geniuses, what day everything's on, so it puts it all right there for you, so you don't have to think. You just click.
So, I'm trying to do fresh market pickup twice a month. And
what is the fresh market pickup?
So one of our longest serving projects in Rotary, if not the longest, and Monday through Friday we pick up the food that is still good to eat, but not. It's past the buy-sell date from what is it? Fresh Market Grocery, and over on Haynes
Nesbitt,
yeah, over in Johns Creek, and we take it over to North Fulton Charities to the food pantry, and that's been going on as long as I can remember, and I very much enjoy that. I started bringing my dog when I can to bring Murphy along for the ride. But
that's the first thing that you and I did together. You
now,
invited me along to come on the bread run.
So I've gotten away from this, and shame on me, but I used to, when I didn't go as often as I do now, be very deliberate about trying to find somebody who was new to the club, so I would get to know them, let them see where the back door was and how to do that particular project, and teach somebody how to fish so they can go fish themselves and not just give them a fish, so to speak. So and yeah, I've gotten to know a good number of people who are newer to the club, and nowadays, since I'm doing it twice a month, I've gotten away from that a little bit, taking a new prospective member. But gone to the Vision Warriors once a month. I missed this month because we were out of town, but we've been doing that on a monthly basis.
And tell us what Vision Warriors is, real quick.
All right. So one of our club members, Kirk Driscoll, has a recovery center for men. It's a Christ-centered recovery center for men in overcoming addiction, and it is both a church and a recovery center. And they have a campus with a kitchen. And first Thursday of the month, we go up and provide the meal. JJ in the club coordinates that and does a tremendous job. Boy, when she's in charge, she does a really good job of keeping things organized. And what I love about it is I don't have to be in charge. I'm really enjoying Rotary this year, especially. Being a little bit older than I used to be, just being a foot soldier. I'm not trying to organize anything. I'm just like, if you want me to chop onions, I'll chop onions. I mean, I just want to be a foot soldier and just plug in. And I've really enjoyed that. Same thing with the opportunities to serve our public safety and military folks that you've got organized. So we're out in the community a lot right now, and that's a great thing. The thing about Rotary is with each administration, each board and president, it's going to take on its own flavor, its own point of emphasis, and you've got yours, and it's been a good one. That sometimes if we get away from doing things that we used to do, my belief is if you miss out on 2 years, you will probably drop it in the third year. So if you're doing something in the past, you need to keep it up at least every other year, because by the third year, if you haven't done it, you've lost institutional memory. There's a lot in Rotary that's we've done this in the past. The backpacks go into North Fulton Charities, very first thing you do in August of the year. So, as somebody who's got a little bit of a long horizon in the club, been in for a while, I'm always wanting us to do some of the things that we used to do and not forget about those things. So, we're hit and miss.
Other than the bread run, what are some of our longest standing service projects that you can think of?
Red Run and, certainly Adopt a Mile.
And Adopt a Mile is we clean up the road right in front of Avalon, basically from 400 all the way until Haynes Bridge, once a month, right?
So we used to do and we used to do home stretch fairly regularly. I don't know if we do that as regularly now. We've kept up with the Drake House. Habitat. We're hit and miss on when we do habitat projects. And at the end of the day, it's never the president's job to make those things happen, but somewhere within the board and the board structure, they got to find somebody who will own and run with the project. Because if you don't have the passion to own it and run with it, then it gets dropped. And you find the things that have continued have had people who have been owners of the projects. And that's I look back. I've got all these photo files from all the different years, and a lot of them are broken down by projects. And back in 2008, we had a good number of projects, and then the two that really come to mind is when Bill Weeks was president in 2012. He had 90 plus projects. He didn't swing for home runs. He was constantly swinging for singles, and that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to overwhelm the club, the district, with just a sheer volume of projects that we were doing, and he incentivized those projects. See, every president's a little bit different. He would repeatedly tell people, if you've got a project, you bring it to me, and the club will put $500 toward it, and we'll make it happen. And whatever else it costs, it's on you, whatever. But we did a lot of small ball, a lot of projects. We were very busy. And then a few years later, in 2016, when Jason Binder was president, we still have the flag, 100 Acts of Kindness. He sort of emulated and exceeded what Bill did playing small ball. We had over 100 individual projects that we were doing with a club about half the size.
That's awesome.
And a lot of them, were not memorable projects, but they were projects, and there's, reading at schools, books for schools. I mean, you can break it down by age group for the young people, doing stuff for the old people.
So, and speaking of Habitat for Humanity, I think we do have 2 or 3 builds this year.
Good.
And Steve Napier is actually the executive director of Habitat for Humanity North Central Georgia, and he is actually a member of our club as well. So, he kind of helps us facilitate those now, and I know we've got 2 or 3 this year, so I'm excited. I love building stuff, so that's always been huge for me.
Yeah.
But we've got a number of different things that we do. Some of our bigger projects I want to talk about just a little bit. Some of the big ones in the city of Alpharetta, they happen, and sometimes everybody doesn't realize that Rotary's behind it, and that's I kind of love that. But I also kind of want to make sure that everyone does know, because it's important that we're able to continue to do these awesome things. And we do the concerts on the green. So every Friday over the summer, or every other Friday over the summer, the big green right up front in between, or right in front of City Hall, we do concerts there, and those are all free for everyone to attend. We've got a few major fundraisers. We've got the Mayor's Corporate Challenge 5K. Which happens right behind City Hall, and it takes off, does, however, 3.2 miles, comes right back and finishes at City Hall. All that money goes right back into the community, and it's sponsored by all the corporations that, live, work, play here in Alpharetta. And it's meant to bring all of those employees back into the community that they work in, to give back, have some fun, and have a cool night. And then one of our other major ones is called the Alpharetta Polar Bear Plunge. Yeah. So started by Kyle Lewis, one of our members, it may not get that cold down here in Georgia, but it gets cold enough.
Hey, that water had a 30-some degree temperature reading one year.
It's a very interesting project that he started here. It's a very interesting event, and it's not meant to draw money from members or corporations. It's meant to be a fundraiser for fundraisers. So if you are someone that has a passion or a cause within the community, you can start a team. you can join in the fundraiser, and all you're doing is just jumping in cold water. You're sending it out into the community saying, hey, support me as I plunge into this cold water to raise money for my cause. And there's no upfront cost to you at all. I mean, you can join, start a team, and start raising money right away. So that, I think the total raised last year was $270,000 roughly. So we're trying to get that to $500,000 this year. We're trying to get some more teams, and just an easy way for people to raise money for a cause that they believe in. So we're excited. We're super excited about that. It's just continued to take off.
So here's the thing. When newer people join the club, and I touched on this in a different sense when we were talking Alpharetta Rotary Foundation the other day, but when newer people join the club, they know what is, and they don't know anything other than what they know. And so they see a club that's very generous, very giving, raises a lot of money, has financial impact in the community, and it's great to see. But the perspective is, like any other group, we have our history and our roots. And even before well before I joined the club in '96, the club was chartered in March of 1983. The earliest fundraiser that I recall hearing about was called the Woodcut. Now you need to carry this on for the next 30 years that you're in the club, and to say, I don't know what this was about, but I heard Hypes and Phil Kingery talking about the Woodcut. But
sounds strenuous, but
yes,
keep going.
The fundraiser for the Alpharetta Rotary Club was chopping firewood and selling firewood. Wow. That is how they raised their money to fund their projects. And then by the time I came along, that had moved on to, and people still talk fondly about the Woodcut, to a golf tournament. And it was the Buddy, now I might be mistaken about this, but I think it was the Buddy Castleberry golf tournament that was the fundraiser. And I have no idea how much the golf tournament raised. And then when Ted Schwartz had been tapped to become president, but he wasn't president yet, we started a whole new fundraiser called the Funfest.
Funfest.
And you'll still hear people in the club that have been around long enough for Funfest to mutter under their breath and say evil things about Funfest. And
not so Funfest. No.
Yeah. So Funfest, for those listening in, do you know what
I've heard about it.
Yeah. So
fond memories of it.
It was an outdoor festival with jumpy houses and things to bring kids to do, and car show, and just a lot of mishmash of pieces that were outside. And because you had to rent a lot of these pieces, and the car show, everything was very weather dependent. If the weather's bad, nobody's going to show up and nobody's going to bring their cars out. And it was very labor intensive and had a lot of overhead. It made okay money, but it had a tremendous downside if things didn't work well. And so, Ted tried, and I give Ted all the credit in the world, to do something different to move us forward. And so we had Funfest. It was always in the fall. And it was one of those deals where we didn't do our fundraiser until the fall, and so the club president never knew what his budget was going to be until Funfest was over with. And when it was hitting on all cylinders in the first 3 or 4 years, and it was when I was club president, I think we grossed 55 and we netted 45 or something. But we ran the club, everything, club service and club projects, on $45,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and we thought that was a lot of money because that was a lot more than the Woodcut. It was a lot more than the golf tournament. I think the year before me, Yvonne did about 50,000 gross, if I remember. And so, but then the year after I was president in '09, William Perkins was president, and we had a rainout, and it was the first time it rained, and it was an all-day rain. It was a 100-year flood where everything in West Georgia was underwater. It was that weekend, and we raised no money that year,
Wow.
Virtually no money. And then follow forward the next year when Gillard was president, they had this weird gasoline outage where we couldn't flip over from the summer blend to the fall blend, and there was no gas in Atlanta, and nobody was driving anywhere. So we had good weather, but nobody showed up because nobody was driving.
Oh, wow.
2 years in a row, the main fundraiser hit flat.
Wow.
And that's when Sam Gordon, a little history for you, said, we're not doing the Funfest anymore. And we had a secondary fundraiser in the spring that was the Mayor's Challenge. And it wasn't a corporate challenge. It was just whoever wanted to join and run, and we might get a decent number of runners, but not like what we get today. And in whatever year that was, 11, 12, we didn't have a fundraiser and went to Mayor's Challenge as being. So, you know, we kind of topped out in the mid-50s and then went down to zero, and now we're raising $500,000 or more in a year, counting the pass-through on the polar bear plunge.
Yeah.
So, you know, what this club has done since 2012, 2013 has just been phenomenal. And what we have done really in the last 7 years, since about 2018, is just off the charts. It's
something I think is really cool that you kind of touched on. You know, you're talking about how each president comes in and, you know, puts their own spin on things. Mm-hmm. Something very unique about the Rotary Club is every single year our entire board changes. So there's a new president, there's a new entire board put in place by that president and solely picked by them. We pick our presidents 3 years out, so we have a great succession plan and learning and all that beforehand. But
and that only started about 6 or 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
being 3 years out as opposed to 2 years out.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's great. It gives you time, you know, to really think about things and you know, start to try to figure out what you want to do throughout your year. And I love that each president comes in and puts their own thing in place. So one of the things that I put in place for this year, one of my passions is cooking. And I know there's a few other people in the club that love to cook. I think you're one of them. You like to come to the events where we serve. And Mickey Rogers, he does a lot of barbecue, a lot of barbecue. So he kind of agreed to be my grill master earlier in the year, and I said, Mickey, I'm going to put you to work. So we started a little initiative called Rotary Serves, and basically we're trying to serve our hometown heroes and any other charitable organizations that we can get to. So we've already done lunches and dinners for all of the fire stations. We've done the police and 911, EMS. We've done the Parks and Rec department. We work pretty closely with them on a lot of stuff. And we've got a few more charities to come. The American Legion being one of them, which is where we meet right now for our meetings every Friday. So it's a super fun little thing that I brought in for my year because I just love to cook and I love to serve and watch people eat and enjoy the food that we made. So and it gives you time to hang out with them. Whereas normally, you know, touch of trucks and stuff like that, you say hi to the firemen and keep walking. But hanging out with these guys that are, I mean, the last one that we had, one of our members, she came and was on the verge of tears because she just wanted to come and thank these guys because they had come to her house specifically and picked her up off the ground multiple times when she'd fallen and broken a bone. Her friend had a heart attack while he was at her house, and they came and helped him. So it was a way for her to just serve these guys a meal and give back to them and be super thankful that they're there just to do that for us and you know, serve the community. So that was one of my little things that I put in this year that I really love. But
it's a great observation about how it turns over every year, becomes a reflection of the leadership, which is a different reflection every year. So you've brought your passion and who you are as a person and enabled the club to graft on to your leadership of what you want to do. Last year, I don't remember Jeff Davis's rank, but he's a retired Marine. And, you know, he brought his leadership style and he brought his passion for, you know, for veterans and people in the military and, you know, his focus. And it was very unique and different from yours. And in the prior years, you know, speaking for myself in 2008, I'm a lawyer and I'm a trial lawyer. And I, honest to God, would stand up there and I would look at everybody and I would be like, okay, this is my jury. I actually did this in my head. I'm like, you don't know what's coming up. My job is to paint a picture for you as a club and tell you how you can participate in this and see things, from the club's point of view about how this is a good thing for all of you to get involved in, and to get buy-in from them. And so each person brings something different in their passion, and that makes each year fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's also frustrating that we have to have people in the technical positions try to relearn things, treasurer or whatever the case may be. But would you not agree that being club president is way easier than being one of the officers in the club?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would rather be a club president any day of the week than the club treasurer or club secretary. It's
easy to say yes, that's for sure. I think a couple of years before I became president, I had like 5 different positions that I was serving with, and I was very overwhelmed. And now I'm just doing a lot of delegating. So,
all right, so
sitting back and
So kind of full circle. I wish you could have been there when I was club president. I really do. I think that
I was there in spirit.
I know you were. So July 1, whatever that first week of July was, 2008. I'm taking over the reins, and I'm getting ready to send your classmate, my daughter, off to LSU. I mean, that was her last summer. You had just graduated high school. And so my kids used to come to the meetings fairly regularly, especially when they were little, and drawing the raffle tickets and whatnot. So they grew up in Rotary, kind of like I grew up in Kiwanis. And I never had so much fun as the year I was president. I mean, I had a blast. I was just going, red line RPM at work, and you're going red line RPM with kids at home, new kids at home. But at the same time, Friday mornings was almost a release from the pressure of the week. You got the microphone, got to crack wise a little bit, get people laughing with you. I would put on skits, in my year, the year I was president, I was introducing technology to the club. They never had slideshows until I was club president. And I had some little double entendres thrown in there. If you got the joke, you got it. If you didn't, we just kept on moving. My son, Zach, was playing football at Chattahoochee as a junior that year. I'd put pictures of him up there. I just had the best time.
Well, speaking of meetings, give me, for those who don't know, what's your, like, a 30-second synopsis? What's a meeting? Because we meet every single Friday from 7:15 to 8:30. And for many people, they're like, wow, that's really early. I don't know if I want to get up that early. But tell, for those who don't know, what's a meeting?
I'm going to tell you what my meeting is. And everybody's meeting is a little bit different. My meeting is, my wife, Karen, she joined the club in 2010. There's a story behind that. But we show up at about 10 till 7 in the morning, and that's been our routine for a long time. And we very, very much enjoy the social part of it before the meeting officially begins. And by getting there early enough, one of the earlier people for a meeting at 10 till 7, we get a chance to walk around and catch up with people and talk with people, having coffee. When I first joined Rotary, I would get there about 20 after 7, and I was missing out on all that. So a meeting for me is, I'm a creature of habit, a lot of tradition in Rotary. I tend to sit in the same general place relative to where the speaker is, close to the front but not at the front. Then we have breakfast. We go get our breakfast, and during announcements and a review of service that we've done in the prior week, and service and fellowship party opportunities in the coming weeks. That's up on the screen while we're having breakfast, and then there's a thing. If this is going out to non-Rotarians, we have Brag a Buck, where for $1 you get a chance to brag on your kids, brag on another Rotarian, brag on your success at work, whatever you want to brag on. Cost you $1, and then introduce our guests who were at the club, and then after that, the speaker gets introduced and comes on. And one of the great things about Rotary, especially a significant Rotary club like ours, is we are able to attract good speakers. And if you're a smaller club and don't have a lot of folks, you're going to miss out on quality speakers because it's not going to work for them. But certainly one of the benefits of being a 175 plus member club is when you tell that to somebody who is a speaker, they're going to want to come and talk with us. And I think we get really good quality speakers. And
absolutely. Prime example, this Friday we're having Anson Carter, who's the head of the sports group that's trying to attract an NHL team to Alpharetta. So if anybody's watching this in 10 years and we have an NHL team in Alpharetta, I'm not going to say you're welcome, but he's been working on that for a while. So this is us right before that. If that happened, we're excited. We want it to happen. So, some of us.
Yeah. So the meetings are a lot of fun, and people will comment how different our meetings are because of the energy, especially at that time of the morning. And people are sincere about that when they say that.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, even our speakers will come and say, "I cannot believe how much energy there is in this room at 7:30 in the morning." So talking about morning meetings, when I invite somebody to the club, I never try to oversell it. And if I catch myself trying to oversell it, I'll stop myself. I'm like, you should come, you should visit, you should experience it. If it speaks to you, there's nothing I can say that's going to add to what the club speaks to you. And if it doesn't speak to you, then, I'm not inclined to try to talk you into something that's not, really speaking to you. So, and to that end, there are some people who are just not morning people, and I 100% get it. It's just whether they're retired or whether Friday mornings won't work for them. So don't try to make it work for you.
Not overselling it. I'm someone who doesn't know what Rotary is. I've never been. What are you saying to me when you're not overselling it, telling me to come to a meeting? What does that sound like? Hey John, what goes on Friday morning? What are you doing there, man?
We have a breakfast club meeting of a bunch of folks who are legitimately business and civic leaders in the community, and it's a great group of people to know, especially if you live or work in Alpharetta. And we do a lot of good work in the community. And I don't know if I want to say any more than that.
Sounds cool. I think I'll come.
I might add what I had just said a moment ago, and that is, come check it out. If it speaks to you, you'll get it, and if it doesn't speak to you, then I don't want to try to. I don't want to try to sell it.
I love it.
Now, if they come and it's a flat meeting, bad speaker, somebody says something rude, I don't know.
It's not normally like this. I promise.
Yeah. Come back a second time. Yeah. So,
to wrap up here, let's talk about one last thing, then we'll get you out of here. So. We've talked about where we've been, what we are now. I'd like to get your perspective on where is the club headed? What does it look like in the future? And I'd love to give you, sitting in my seat, what it looks like from my perspective, and then get your thoughts on what I think and what you think as well. So, my year is centered around service. I'm trying to bring as many opportunities as I possibly can to the club. Rotary International is very focused on growth. And I myself personally am not focused on growth for the sake of growth. I only want intentional growth. So when we invite people to the club, like you said, you're not overselling it. I only want people who are going to go arm in arm with me and get out there and get their hands dirty. So a lot of people that have joined this year are doing just that, serving side by side before they have even actually joined.
Yes,
so I love that.
I do too.
And so where I see our club going is we're going to continue to grow with Alpharetta. As our city grows, I think our club will grow organically. And even though the needs in Alpharetta may not be evident, they may not be slapping you right in the face as they are in some other areas, but there are definitely needs. And I think that our club is going to continue to grow and find those needs and, like I said, be the conduit for the community to those needs and continue to fill those gaps that have the biggest needs basically in our community.
So my thoughts on this topic are not necessarily popular, and with some old school people and people that we have very, very boring lives, and we talk about Rotary way too much. And Bill and I used to talk about Rotary all the time. But I don't believe bigger is better at all. I reject bigger is better, and I think regardless of the size of Alpharetta, whether it's 70,000 or 170,000, I think a 175-person club has more than enough people to make an impact on the community. The question is, do you have the right 175 people? It's not any 175, but do you have Rotarians as opposed to club members? So, I'm opinionated about this. In my experience, and I've experienced everything from 60 members to 177 now. To me, the ideal size Rotary Club is 60 to 80 members. You can accomplish anything. You're going to know everybody in the club, like close family, as opposed to second and third cousins, and you can roll your leadership effectively. Anything smaller than 60 gets too tight. It's the difference between Apple versus IBM, where you're setting up at 170. You're setting up committees and layers of bureaucracy in order to effectively administer the club. But at the end of the day, it's when you're as big as we are now, it's all about the quality of the person that joins, not the person themselves. And I remember when in 1999, I saw all these people running off and having secret meetings in back rooms and whatnot over at Country Club of the South. And I heard about what was going on, but I wasn't in the structure of the club, so to speak, at that time. And we had about 80 members, and we spun off the North Fulton Club. And we went from 80 down to 60, and 20 of those folks went and chartered the North Fulton Club in 2000, 2001. Some very good friends, including my later law partner, John Bach, and some others. Some really good people from our club spun off. And so we built our way back up from 60, got up to the upper 80s, and then we dipped down. And as you may have heard or was announced at the club, we're the only club out of the entire southeastern United States and the Caribbean to have grown 14 consecutive years. So people look at us and they just don't understand how we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
But with that kind of growth, we've been really blessed that we have grown with people who jump in before they're even members or showing up working arm in arm. The challenge is we are a big club. We don't need to add another member. We need to add good members.
Absolutely.
And as long as we're focused on doing that, I think everything will take care of itself.
Agreed.
And, because Alpharetta is such a fortunate city to be located in, to live or work in, to be the club that, has the mayor, has council members, has the police chief and the fire chief, and the heads of business and industry in town in that club, we are a reflection of who Alpharetta is. Mm-hmm. And so there's automatically that draw for people to want to be a part of that now, and that's part of our success and growth. And part of the charge for you and for Joe Wargo and for Jill Bernard and every subsequent president is when these people in town want to be a part of what we have, that they're joining for the right reasons.
Absolutely.
Now, that's my preachy side.
I love it. It's super, super, super important. I think you attract what you are, and we're a club full of leaders and dynamic people. A great example, one of our most recent and awesome triumphs that I love is just continuing to grow. One of our members, Kyle Lewis, he helped us create the Alpharetta Rotary Foundation. So our club is not actually a 501c3, but we created our own foundation. Our foundation has grown over the past 5 years with donations from members and people around the community, and they were able to give out, I think, $40,000 in grants this year to local community charities such as Habitat for Humanity, Drake House, Homestretch, St. Vincent de Paul. We just did one last week for them for $10,000. So people like Kyle come into the club with great ideas like that, allowing for the opportunity for money like that to flow to these charities in need and help people in our communities is just amazing. So I think we continue down this path of not necessarily growth, but maturity even, and getting the people that make a difference, who want to be involved.
So another final, I know we're wrapping up here, but during this membership podcast that I did, and you said you weren't on it. So it didn't occur to me until I was sort of thinking through it, but my point of emphasis on membership for Alpharetta, why have we grown for 14 consecutive years? And there were 2 other guest speakers on this podcast, and I went with the fact that we attract and we enable younger members in the club. And so, I focused on that. And I went back, starting with Kirk, who was in his 30s at the time when he was president, certainly when he was tapped to be president. 5 of our last 11 presidents were presidents when they were in their 30s, and certainly asked to be presidents in their mid to early 30s.
What was the youngest, if you can remember? Is it me?
It might be you. Katie was in her 30s and just turning 40. Kirk was trying to go forward. Well, I'm not going to take time trying to remember all. There was 5 of the last 11.
I'm 35. I was the youngest. It's cool. We know that.
But it didn't occur to me until I was thinking out loud during the podcast that they wanted to know, well, why is that happening and how is that happening? And I said, well, in our club, older members, more established members, are more than just comfortable, but we desire to have younger people, when we see somebody, put into positions of leadership, real leadership, not just a label. And most clubs, in my experience, the older, more established senior folks don't want to let go of the power, whatever that may look like in a Rotary club. I mean, I kind of say that tongue in cheek. But, they don't want to turn it over to a completely different generation, somebody who's my child's age. But in our club, we do want to do that. We're not just open to it, we desire that. And so what occurred to me when I was talking about it is, Rotary clubs provide service, they provide civic functions, we do all these things, money into the community, but one of our exports for Alpharetta Rotary is we develop and produce leaders in our community. And it's not to say that you weren't a leader before or that Casey Robinson wasn't a leader before, et cetera, et cetera. You all were tapped because you had that it factor, the charisma, the ability to lead. But then to put you in the position and to go through that, you come out the other side, and you are now a past president of the Rotary Club of Alpharetta in Alpharetta, and maybe part of the reason the senior people are desirous of putting young people in positions relative to our age is it's really rewarding to see how we're producing leaders in the community.
Absolutely. Like I said, going back, when I was sitting in the room in that first meeting and I looked around and I saw the mayor and councilman and police chief and all these guys and girls, I thought, wow, like this is where I need to be. And truly, I joined to do good and have fun, but ended up finding mentors and development and leadership and to accept the honor of leading this organization. It's truly been life-changing for me, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So.